Hello everyone, I'm Micah McNeil.
And I'm Robbie Hodson, and we're here with Stillwater Appraisal Associates, and we'll show you how to design a floor plan for a house.
Now, a floor plan is an essential part of beginning the appraisal process. It shows us what the house looks like, a general idea of where the rooms are, what they look like. It gives us a lot of data that we need for finding the intrinsic value of the house, and it also will help later on in our career, as we'll explain later in our slides. Now, when we begin the appraisal process, the appraiser and its client will meet. We'll have the appraiser come on a day that's mutually convenient for both of them, and then the appraiser will go over and start making the floor plan. Now, before a floor plan is began to draw, we look at several key things to start the house. First of all, what's its base? And to do that, you look at what the driveway is made of, and that will show you what the house is built on. Typically, it'll be slab, which is concrete, but every now and again, you'll go out to appraisals in the sticks or in the country. Sometimes there's trailer homes, sometimes there's houses that aren't built into the ground, and sometimes they're just built on dirt roads, and you got to account for those. But I would say 90% of the time, it's going to be, your base is going to be slab. The next thing you look at is the style of house. There's traditional, there's comp houses, there's stylecraft houses, there's houses where it's halfway wood, halfway brick, all stone, and you'll learn the differences of each of those styles as you continue your work as an appraiser. Now, another thing you have to look after you've looked at the base and the style of the house, you've got to look at the style of the roof. That varies from house to house, or typically it can be the same. It could be traditional, it could be composition. It all just depends, and you'll learn these as you continue your career as an appraiser.
Yeah, and then after that, you want to look to see if there's a wooden fence, what kind of wooden fence there is, if they have it, if it engulfs the whole yard, just the backyard. And you also want to look at the vegetation, which is trees, bushes, the types of trees and bush it is. You want to get all that written down, and then you need to see if the plumbing in the house is done and working, as well as if there's an AC unit connected to the house, and if there is that AC unit, what brand is that AC unit and what year.
Now, as we move on, what we have to do is now we're actually going to start the drawing process. You will use engineering paper to draw the outside of the house. To do that, you'll take a tape measure, hook to one corner of a wall, and then you'll measure how long that wall is. So say, for example, I measured the garage here. I would hook up to one corner of the garage, pull it to the other side, and then record how much. Say if it was 19 feet, a good rule of thumb for the engineering paper is that one block equals 1 square foot. So if the garage is 19 and a half, I would draw a 19 and a half straight line, and then from there I'd hook from one side to get the side measurement, draw it up to whatever that is, say it's 25 feet, and then you just keep doing that for each side so you get the outside of the house.
Yeah, and with those measurements, what you want to do is you want to make sure they match. You want to make sure the top half and the bottom half both match, same with the side halves, because if they don't, it means you messed up somewhere. Houses are usually square, rectangular, they're not prism shaped or anything like that. So if they're flush, it means you're doing something right. If not, then you need to remeasure again. And you can use this outside of the drawing as well to double check with your inside of the drawing when on our next step to make sure everything's flush as well. Because if the walls add up to more than the outside, you did something wrong there too. So it's a really good way to double check to make sure that you're doing it right if you measure the outside correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, moving along, now we're getting to the inside of the house. Now, when you're looking at the inside, the key thing to remember is while we're also measuring, we're also looking at how ready is the house. For example, if the house doesn't have its drywall set up, we talked about the plumbing earlier from the outside. Those are all factors that you take into consideration when you can decide when this house will be ready for sale. If it's a new house or if it's an old house, that doesn't necessarily matter. But it's especially important whenever you're doing an appraisal for a brand new house that you note how ready it is. Now, once we go into how ready the house is, the first thing we have to do is we have to measure the ceiling heights of each room. For example, this room, the ceiling height is around 14 feet. This room, it's around 12 feet. This room, it's around 9 feet. Each room will have a different ceiling height, and that's important to note.
Yeah, and with that, you measure the inside of the walls. Like I was saying before, they need to add up and equal the outside. That's a good way to double check to make sure you're doing it right. And also with the ceiling height and stuff, you want to label on your drawing if there are any extras. And extras can be fireplaces, they can be ceiling fans, water heaters, anything that can add to the value of the house that you'd want to put down on that piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're gonna want to return to the office with all that information you had, and you're gonna want to take pictures of each room. And the best way to do that is like this picture here, where you stand in the doorway and you take a picture of as much room space you can have. This will show the condition, like Michael was talking about. If the drywall's up, if there's holes or anything, it'll just show what quality the house is in right now, like what stage of if it's a finished product, if they're still working on it, if it's like an old abandoned torn up house. The pictures will really show you what the house looks like from the inside.
Now, along with pictures of each room, there's also several house pictures you need to take. Typically we do this towards the very end because it's just a finish up. We've already finished most of everything up. You're going to take pictures of the outside of the house. To do that, you'll take a front view, which is just going to be you standing in front of the house, taking a front view picture. A side view, where you want to be able to get the side and a little bit of the front. A good rule of thumb, if there's an AC unit, you want to get that in the picture. If there's a wooden fence in the unit, you want to get that into the picture. Then, once you get both the front view and the side views, you're going to go to the back and get your rear view. And that's just going to cover the backyard. You'll see everything, if there's a deck, all that sort of jazz. And then the last picture you have to get is a street view, which shows where the house is in relation to the neighborhood and what it looks like, so that we can prove later on when we do the comparable sale that yes, we found a house in a similar neighborhood, in a similar environment, where they would have similar values.
Yeah, and with all those pictures and information you got from your hand drawing, you take that and you put that into a computer program, and it'll print out a nice printed version of the house, and all the information you put, I'll have all the pictures there, and that's when you can get the appraisal process started. I don't know why that was hard to say, but you can take that, and the computer program will put all of your livable area in there, which is all the area you can live in, like not counting your deck, and it'll take your total square footage, which is just everything, like as much square footage as you have in your house, which is valuable information to know when you're trying to appraise a house. And this is what the final product should look like. You see it's all printed out. It has all the heights of each room that we measured before printed in there, and the dimensions as well. It has some of the vegetation and the deck. Everything's labeled, all the rooms are labeled. There's the doors, it'll show which way the doors open, and each room is very valuable information to know. As Michael would say, there's so many little hidden gems that most people don't know, but are really big for the appraisal process of the house.
Exactly. Now, another thing to understand about why we do this and why we go to the level of creating this online, I mean, beyond the fact that it looks much nicer and it's much easier for the clients to understand where everything is, what this also does, it actually makes it easier to do another appraisal on a similar house, because rather than having to meet and go draw this all by hand, which takes a considerable amount of time because you want to do it right and you want to make sure that everything's accurate. If you have a house that you believe is going to be of the same style and similar value, what I can do is I can print this, walk to the house and see, okay, the garage is on the same side, all the rooms are basically in the same area, I have a similar style house. From there, all I have to do is basically check marks. I have to look if each side is the same length as it is. It might not be. I might write it out and then draw it later. Write down, oh, it's not 19 feet, it's 19 and a half, or it's 20 feet. And then I can use that to make corrections as I need to. Then I can go back to the office and then redraw it as I need to with the correct dimensions, the correct lengths. If they have a fireplace and the other house doesn't, and some similar to that, it makes the appraisal process much easier, meaning you can get more appraisals done and you can get more clients done much faster, which is good for business and also just looks good on you as an appraiser and makes you look more professional. So there is a reason we go through this long process to get to this final thing, because it actually makes our work a lot easier in the future.
Mm-hmm. Moral of the story, if you do it right the first time, it'll help you every other time after that. So make sure you go through all the steps we went through, get a perfect design, and then use it for the future, and it'll help you out in the long run if you take the steps little by little and do it really well the first time. Thank you for the time. My name is Robbie.
My name is Micah.
And we hope we taught you a little bit about the floor plan today.